that ties into Bilderberg, because that's the globalist group. That's the globalist group that is the top bankers, the top politicians meeting. And we've gotten their minutes. We've gotten leaks over the years. We have some of our sources. Estulin has some great sources. Best-selling author, The True History of the Bilderberg Group. And now he's got the new book out, The Octopus Deception, a novel that we sell at InfoWarsStore.com, I should add. And Bilderberg this year now has the EU Parliament and UKIP, who's going to be there with me demonstrating and you know, covering it this year, June 6th to the 9th in Watford, England, northwest of London. And the police have been trying to contact Paul Watson, who lives south of London, about 60 miles from Watford. They want to come meet and talk to him. We're well-known journalists. We're well-known, don't have criminal records. I've been detained 15 hours in Canada, became an international story. Daniel Estuline's been detained. Jim Tucker, who just passed, has been shot at. The original Bilderberg sleuth. And now the UK Independence Party draws attention to Bilderberg 2013. And I talked to the UK Independence Party and asked them on air and off air to please come. And they said they are going to be coming. Probably Nigel Farage, the leader of the party, which, by the way, is having huge gains in Europe and in the UK. In fact, they won the last local national election. That is, they have local election nationwide. They just dominated. It's now the main parties, the Conservative and Tory and the Liberals, are begging them. Daniel Estulin is in Rome, I'm told, and we couldn't have him on at a better time. We're going to play clips coming up of UKIP there at the EU Parliament, because England, even though they didn't vote to begin it, is now in the Euro. And so they get members of the Parliament, though they're ceremonial, the whole Parliament ceremonial, the bureaucrats call the shots. They're now attacking the globalist. Rand Paul is now coming out and saying, we're going under world government. We're going under UN. And they're like, that discredits you. No, that's actually what defeats them. Whatever they say, oh, discredits us, is the truth and what we should be covering. Doesn't work anymore. And again, the best-selling author, I don't know, more than 20 languages, in his first big Bilderberg books, with a new edition out, The True Story of the Bilderberg Group, now has The Octopus Deception, a novel where I've read the book. It really gets into things that can't be said from sources but can only be put in a novel form. And so he's the award-winning investigative journalist, best-selling author, The True Story of the Bilderberg Group. He was featured on Jesse Ventura's Conspiracy Theory television show with myself, the great episode, and the DVD Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement. Daniel is currently the host of RT TV show, and he has a new documentary on the Bilderberg Group scheduled for release this year. Can't wait to see that. Daniel, you've heard my introduction to you here, my friend Daniel Estulin. Of course, we'll also give out your website, DanielEstulin.com. Daniel, so much going on, but we should, before we get into geopolitics and what's happening, we should talk about Jim Tucker dying 4 weeks ago, 3.5 weeks ago, a great passing. What would you like to say about Jim Tucker, my friend?
Well, first of all, Alex, again, it's wonderful to be on your show. It's great to hear your voice. And it's great to know that you're on our side. I would hate to have you on the other side, I can tell you that. Yes, Jim Tucker is a great man. I met him for the first time way back in 1995. Our first friendship, let's say, developed back in 1986 in Canada, in King City, just on the outskirts of Toronto, where I think we had the first big success, again, as the Bilderbergers, where it came out in the mainstream press, thanks to mostly to Jim's work and to my sources at the time, few sources that I had at the time in the mainstream Canadian press about the Bilderbergers' plans to separate Canada, to divide French-speaking Quebec from the rest of English-speaking Canada, and then merge English-speaking Canada and the United States into greater North America. The first time I was on your show back in 2004, we talked about this. In 2005, it was all over the news. You were the front runner in most of these stories. And again, I'm very grateful to say that nobody today can actually dare to say that you or I or, Jim, at one time might have been conspiracy theories, because, again, these people themselves will be simply discredited. There's just too much proof and too much evidence, thanks to my work, Jim's work, and your work, to make sure that people in the mainstream understand that what we're talking about is not a conspiracy theory, but a conspiracy reality.
It certainly is. And, Daniel, there's so much I want to get into with you today, but We look at how now Italian presidents talk about Bilderberg and members of the EU talk about it. And now it's been forced into the news more and more, though our media here in the U.S. still has a quasi-blackout. Is this upsetting Bilderberg that now their shadowy criminal activities are public?
You know, it's difficult to say. I think at a certain point, Bilderberg has morphed into another organization. In other words, it's more of a conveyor belt now than anything else. I don't think really important decisions are made today at Bilderberg simply because there's just been too much press, too much unwarranted attention, too much unfavorable attention, and too many people are now paying, again, attention worldwide to what they're doing. What we can see, and this again is becoming patently obvious. I'm in Italy, but it's not just the Italian press. You can read the French press, the American mainstream press, and all of them, are talking about the question is, in the mainstream publications is, what does the future look like tomorrow, in 1 year, in one generation? And again, we can go back, I go back to the 2005 Bilderberg report, which I put out back in 2005, and to several other top-secret government studies in the United States and the United Kingdom, and they all predict an eerie future. Over the next 25 years, the world will turn into a big brotherish nightmare where small, rich elite thrives on the backs of its starving population. After I talked to you guys last week about setting up an interview for today, I went back to your website, going way back when, to your archives. And the people who are listening, again, if you guys want to see just how spot on Alex Jones was, not 2 weeks ago, but 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 2005 and so on, have a look at what Alex Jones was saying. Big brother nightmare. Small, rich elite thriving on the backs of a starving population. I'm saying it today. It's in the mainstream press today, and this is what Alex has been talking and drawing everybody's attention to about 10 years ago.
Well, I appreciate your kind words, but look, they write white papers, Rand Corporation, all of it. I was reporting on what they were saying. You've been reporting on it, Jim, and I guess we do deserve credit, but we're not doing it for the credit. We're doing it because there's no future if we don't turn all of this around. And again, Daniel Estulin is our guest here, joining us from Rome today. We're going to go to break in a moment. I'm going to find out if he's going to be traveling to England to cover Bilderberg this year. I know he's working on a documentary as well. Can't wait to see that. I want to find out what his Bilderberg sources are saying is on the agenda this year. We're going to break in about a minute, Daniel, but what are some of the things you're going to talk about when we come back?
Well, I want to talk about the near future, 2014. The elite see an opportunity to advance mankind toward a new dark age by taking the reins of Darwin's perversely racialist survival of the fittest natural selection evolution theory and applying these principles to develop what they call social Darwinism. And it's in British government secret reports, UK Ministry of Defense reports, U.S. government reports. We can talk about that. We can talk about how a lot of this stuff is actually just a front for Bilderberg talked about in 2005 and 2006 and 2007.
All right, Daniel Estulin joins us from Rome. We're going to try to clean up his phone line a little bit when we come back, but the information is so incredibly important. You watch Endgame, out 7 years ago with Daniel Estulin, and he breaks down the carbon taxes, the new dark age, the black nobility that took over England. That doesn't mean black people, folks. We're going to break down what their agenda is this year. Authoritarian control freaks throughout history have sought to make populations dependent. The United Nations openly has talked about using food as a weapon against the third world and the industrialized first world. State Department Memorandum 200, developed by Henry Kissinger, called for destroying the food capacity, not just of the United States, but every country in the world, so they could use food scarcity as a political weapon of control. Just a decade ago, less than 10 million Americans were on food stamps. 4 years ago, it was 25 million. It's now reached almost 50 million. Socialist health care is designed to destroy our health care system. The establishment wants you to be a bunch of cowardly, dumbed-down people who can't stand up for yourselves. That's why they're rushing to try to restrict citizens owning firearms. Because since the early 1990s, gun ownership has gone straight up, while violent crime has gone straight down by 49%. And globalist-controlled strongholds like Chicago and New York, where they've taken the citizens' guns, have the highest crime rates in the world. What am I getting at here? The system doesn't want you to be self-sufficient. That's why I promote the fact that you should go out, buy firearms, and go take lessons and learn how to use them. I want you to stand up for your birthright of liberty and freedom. During a serious meltdown, they're going to tell you, hey, you want food? Turn in your guns. And that's why we need to put the globalists in check. And then finally bring them to checkmate by being self-sufficient, by being prepared, by having a garden, by learning how to can your own foods, by having friends and family and community that will stand together. But at the heart of that is having quality, storable foods. And that's why I went out more than a decade ago and found the very best food company to be my sponsor, eFoods Direct. They're the company that I personally use for my emergency food storage preparation, whether it be for natural disasters or the tyranny that is intensifying. So give them a call, 800-409-5633. That's 800-409-5633. Or efoodsdirect.com/Alex to find the weekly and monthly specials. But they're always running the specials where you can get the free 6 meals and the eFoods Direct audio CD put together by the experts in storable foods to answer all your questions, the eFoods planning guide, the eFoods brochure, the eFoods catalog, plus 6 free meals, creamy potato soup, tortilla soup, and cheesy chicken rice, so you can sample the high-quality storable foods from eFoods Direct. They've got a bunch of other specials.
The 2-week food supply provides one adult with 81 servings of healthy, delicious, storable food for 14 days.
The 1-month food supply provides 192 servings for 28 days.
And then there's the 1-month family food pack. It will change the way you look at the food in your pantry. Every time you eat one of these meals, you are eating healthy, delicious food and saving a lot of money.
The 3-month food supply, 576 servings of storable food for 91 days.
And the 1-year food supply will provide you with 2,304 servings of healthy, delicious, storable food for 1 full year.
Your meals are as delicious and nutritious tonight as they'll be in 25 years.
Bottom line, there's a bunch of specials at efoodsdirect.com/Alex. You can also call them at the toll-free number on your screen, and they can send you a catalog with all the specials detailed and tell you about the weekly and monthly specials that they're always running. efoodsdirect.com/Alex to find all the specials, or call the toll-free number. And so in closing, when you buy from efoodsdirect.com, you are supporting the radio broadcast, the nightly news, the magazine, the films, and everything we're doing. Because we're not like MSNBC or Media Matters that get government and corporate funding to bring down America and bring in tyranny. We are funded by our sponsors and you, the viewers and listeners that support them. Again, that's efoodsdirect.com/Alex or 800-409-5633. And when you're also visiting Infowars.com or PrisonPlanet.com, you can click on the banners to take you to the weekly and monthly specials. It's like the Hank Williams Jr. song, "A Country Boy Can Survive," because you can't starve us out and you can't make us run, because these boys were raised on shotguns. Well, there aren't really a lot of good old boys left anymore, are there? And those that are out there are demonized and are enemy number 1 by Homeland Security. And good old boys come in all shapes, colors, and sizes. They're people that aren't chumps, who understand that they're going to take care of their family and that nobody else is. They're people that understand that if somebody else is taking care of them, that makes them a slave. And that the government doesn't want you dependent because they want to build a great future for you. They want to get you dependent so they can social engineer us. So the answer is get self-sufficient, become men again, and tell the New World Order to go straight to hell. Alex Jones signing off for Infowars.com and eFoods Direct, our great sponsor. Daniel Estulin, who's investigative reporter, is in Rome right now. He lives in Spain. We can get from him what the EU takeover's like. And he predicted it from, well, not predicted it, from his Bilderberg sources in 2005. We have the articles up on Infowars.com. I'm going to pull some of those up, where him and Jim Tucker, who both have good sources, said they're going to get everybody in debt, implode Europe. I mean, Daniel, in 2006, you talked about what happened that year, and you said they're going to jack up the oil prices, then they're going to implode the housing bubble in the next 2 years, then they're going to have a bailout. I mean, you really have Bilderberg sources, and I even know who one of them is, but I'm going to just leave it at that. I'm not going to get into you still have that particular source, but explain to people why this is so big, Daniel Estulin. I mean, these people really are the smoky room, and as you said, they're now segueing off into other groups. Our intel is that that's Google. Daniel Estulin.
You know, to most, this may read like a plot from some dystopian Hollywood science fiction film, but I assure you this is real. I know you know this is real, and I hope that people realize that what we're talking about is not science fiction. These are the conclusions of a report prepared by the British government back in December 2006. UK's Ministry of Defence prepared a secret source document on the future of humanity. Now, the report itself was based on top secret negotiations that took place at the conclusions of the 2005 Bilderberg conference at the hotel in Rotterdam in Germany. Of course, Jim Tucker and I were the only journalists in the world who attended that meeting. Now, this group who attended this particular thing in Bilderberg 2005 was handpicked by the Bilderberg Steering Committee in January 2005, long before the Bilderberg meeting itself at the beginning of May. Now, what had happened was, after the Bilderberg meeting had finished, and most of the attendees had gone home, on May the 8th, a small select group of Bilderbergers had retired to an exclusive Ringsburg castle overlooking the Tegernsee in the foothills of the Bavarian Alps. Now, what basically had happened at that meeting itself is you were talking about people, some of the most powerful people in the world, who prepared a detailed report on population, natural resources availability, on conflict prevention, on economic issues, etc., etc. The people who attended that secret meeting at the conclusion of the Bilderberg meeting in May 2005 were, again, the president and chairman of Bilderberg, Etienne Davignon, Francisco Pinto Balsemão, former Prime Minister of Portugal, David Rockefeller, Timothy Geithner, at the time president of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, and later Treasury Secretary for the first Obama administration, Richard Haas, the president of the U.S. think tank Council on Foreign Relations. With the advent of new science and technology related to the genetic revolution, what Bilderberg was saying, that they're literally going to rewrite our genetic construct. And in a span of a generation, we have gone from genetically modified plants to genetically modified animals. And the next step, obviously, is genetically modified humans. You talked about this before, genetic engineering, nanotechnology, military applications. Now, these men and women were planning no more and no less the future of mankind. And what they decided behind closed doors at the Ringsburg Castle would 2 years later become the backbone of the most far-sighted report in human history, which was used by the British government as a once-removed deniable cutout. The report was called Strategic Trends 2007-2036. It's a 91-page report and a blueprint for UK's future strategic national requirements through the analysis of key risks and future shocks to the world's.
And Daniel, I just put the London Guardian reporting on the and Infowars reporting on it, and then links to the British Ministry of Defence is in both of those articles.
So people understand that this isn't some a made-up story by us. This is real. It exists. But again, this isn't a British government report.
Well, Monsanto says that they say they're going to infect everything with GMO, and then basically humans aren't going to be able to live unless we go get augmented. It's not like you're going to want to go become a cyborg or a genetically altered human. You're not going to be able to live, and then you're going to waive your rights to be patented by them and give up your...
If you look at the report itself, if you look at what they're talking, between the lines and in different publications around the world, these are step by step. This isn't just like overnight.
No, it's incremental.
Something like this is going to happen. You know what I mean? It's a very slightly orchestrated step by step procedure. One of the things that they're talking about, for example, I know you have to go to a break in a second, is that over 50%. We're talking about in 2014, 2015. 50% of the world's population will be living in urban rather than rural environments. time.
That's Agenda 21. Stay there. You're going to have the floor when we come back. Folks, Daniel Estulin is the only living person with direct Bilderberg Group, actual Bilderberg Group contacts. Our viewers have demanded it, so now you're going to get it. More pro-Second Amendment gun shows in the month of June.
What we've learned is you cannot hide behind an I-beam when there's a 50 cal present.
Brothers in Arms, 50 cal ammo review, and more. Coming in the month of June to the InfoWar. This is out of the Washington Times. Senate panel okays tax welfare benefits for newly legal immigrants. That's when they legalize them all, then they get all the welfare. Illegals already get the welfare. And now they're talking about biometrics. Hatch wants immigrant fingerprints taken at airports, but whatever they put in is only for citizens. You can look up where Homeland Security waives illegals having to have any ID to fly. You can pull that up. Just type that in, you'll get that. So remember, whatever they tell you something's for, that's not it. They want to get rid of national sovereignty, where there's mega corporations above the law, and all the life extension technologies, all the nanotech, all the good stuff the elite gets, we get tested on, and then basically dumbed down with soft kill weapons, and then the population reduced. And it's in John P. Holdren's book, Eco-Science, the White House Science Czar. It's in hundreds of their publications, Club of Rome, you name it, their plan. And we're going to talk some more about his book itself, the new book, The Octopus Deception, a novel available at InfoWarsStore.com. Also want to add, I had Joel Skousen in here just yesterday talking about strategic relocation means where you live, living in the safest sub-region in your area. It doesn't mean going to the very safest places in America through a wide grouping of things. That's why I made the film. If you're going to live in Tornado Alley, you need to have a plan when tornadoes come by. I covered that big time last year and got called a fearmonger. You need to get the big book, Strategic Relocation, and the book, The Secure Home, just for security issues. Simple things you can do where robbers, very hard for them to break into your house. Things you're not going to be told. Things the government does for themselves. I mean, Joel doesn't brag, but he's built stuff for billionaires. He's built stuff, he's advised governments, you name it. That's why we sell the books and produce the film at InfoWarsStore.com. And I got Daniel on a little bit late, so he'll be with us about 5-10 minutes in the next hour. We'll get more into his book. But Daniel, you've got the floor now in this segment. I'm going to play a UKIP clip in the EU Parliament now where Bilderberg's coming out. But these are the people shaping our world. These are the people pulling the strings. That's why there's unification of agenda worldwide, because the globalists are in charge. These are the people imploding Europe that want 100 trillion every decade of carbon tax money to themselves. These are the people that run the agenda. It's important to know who they are. So going back to 2005 and 2006 and all the things that you got from your sources, break down now the latest, where it's going, how things are going for them. Our intel is they're morphing into Google, and Google's actually at the head of it. Do your sources concur with that? Daniel Estulin, best-selling author, investigative journalist.
Well, the important part to understand is that, you know, there are two key agendas. You know, one is a point in any of these reports that they're addressing. One is population, and the other one is the resources of planet Earth. And what we're talking about, again, in all of these reports, and I went back to, you know, to some of my old Bilderberg reports, which I put out, and the Bilderberg reports that Bilderbergers have put out themselves, you know, to their insiders, which, of course, we have a copy of. And they're all talking about the same thing if you actually go back and look at it. They're talking about increased risk of humanitarian catastrophe caused by a mixture of resource pressure, uneven distribution of wealth, the effects of disease, and the failure of authorities to cope with population growth, and urbanization. Again, nothing new there. We've been talking about this for a long time, but if you start putting it in context, you know, today all of the laws, the regulations, you know, the invectives of the government in the United States and also European community, they're all basically going down the same path. And the question, as one that individual and to everybody else, based on the Bilderberg report, is no, it does not. What they're saying in their reports is, with the erosion of civil liberties, and again, you've been talking about this more than anybody I know in the world about, the erosion of civil liberties, the super rich will be protected through technological advancements and pervasive surveillance. And again, the listeners of the Alex Jones Show, go back to the archives, to where it says Big Brother. Look to what Alex was saying about, 2005, 2004, 2006. This is exactly what we've been talking about. Pervasive surveillance, technological advancement. And again, when you put it together with intrusive, highly responsible and accessible databases, when we're talking about the emergence of the surveillance society, and the surveillance society will increasingly challenge assumptions about privacy, which we're seeing right now, with corresponding impacts on civil liberties and human rights. And they're concerned about that, not because they're concerned about human rights, but they're concerned about what they call flash mobs, okay? And flash mobs in these reports, and one of them is the Strategic Trends Report 2007-2036. That talks about rapid mobilization. Flash mobs may be undertaken by states, terrorists, and criminals, and may involve dispersed communities across international borders, challenging security forces to match this potential agility and ability to concentrate. And again, what I'm talking about, what is the solution that they give to this? Martial law. And again, Alex, you've been the forerunner of this. You talked about this way back when. I think you know, and your audience knows exactly what we're talking about.
Well, expanding on that, Adon Salazar is working on a story where we've confirmed the feds in the U.S. are federalizing the local police special units, and we're doing research on them wearing red armbands in different cities, but we know that they're federalizing them. And here's an example of what's going on in Pittsburgh, a microcosm of this. Special units, and it goes, and this is from their own police department website, Red Team, Rapid Emergency Development to counter terrorist, but it also says not just that, but civil disobedience is in the same category on the pittsburgh.gov/police/speciality_units.htm#red. And it's the same thing in all the cities. So protesting is defined as terrorism. And because they know, folks, as they enslave everybody and take your bank accounts like they're doing in Europe, you're going to resist, and you are the people that the secret police are going to be targeting. Or if they take your business or raise taxes to 100%, as Reuters reported in France, they're going to come after you. I just wanted to give people, Daniel Estulin, a microcosm, because the same thing in Europe. They're federalizing the local police. Same thing in Australia. This is a global program towards authoritarianism. How are things going for the Bilderberg Group? And do you have any information on Google meeting the 2 weeks starting now before and after Bilderberg? And Bilderberg, basically, from my information, passing the baton over to Google more than any other group.
Bilderberg is in the pre-selection January 2013 meeting where they, each country pre-selects, their candidates. They send in a list of each individual country's candidates, and then the Bilderberg Steering Committee elects from each country X number of delegates, discarding the ones which they don't need for this particular year. And at that meeting, they were talking about what you're saying, what you're talking about Google. And one of the things, I'm reading it right now, and they're talking about the level of sophistication will require concerted, comprehensive application. Again, this is from their report. Application of all the instruments and agencies of state power, together with cooperation from all relevant authorities and organizations involved in settling a crisis or resolving a conflict. Again, who's the best in actually solving a crisis or resolving a conflict? Obviously, Google. If you summarize everything we see and everything we're talking about, we can say techniques for overcoming resistance, comprehensive application of all the instruments and agencies of state power, rapid mobilization, flash mobs, pervasive information communications technology, segmentation of society, endemic lawlessness, and high levels of violence. Intrusive, highly responsive, and accessible databases. The emergence of surveillance society, erosion of civil liberties, humanitarian catastrophe. We just had one yesterday. This is what they are talking about in their reports. And these phrases, I just pulled out from different Bilderberg reports over the past 6-7 years or so, and I just read it off to you. All of these things, and I'm not saying what happened yesterday was, I don't know. I'm just saying that humanitarian catastrophes form part of erosion of civil liberties because it gives the authorities a method and obviously a reason to cut on our liberty. We saw that in
absolutely. Don't let a good crisis go to waste, as the former White House chief.
Exactly what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Now, expanding on that, as best I can tell by reading all their public stuff and the leaked information, plus their propaganda, it's an organized central government, central corporation eugenics program to shut down the infrastructure of the world and only let them operate an infrastructure to collapse all existing power grids, geopolitical, economic, energy, into them to then wage a war of bringing in a selective dark age against everyone else, while their media combines pose as the saviors during the crises to orderly herd humanity into the post-human age, as they call it, as they prepare to merge with computers and become gods, in their own words. I don't believe they're becoming gods. Preachers always attack me and say they will fail. How dare you say they're gods? No, that's a straw man. They believe this, and they're not going to let the general public have the life extension technology. They're not going to let you eat up the resources. That's their own words. And they're bringing in a total cyber warfare, brainwashing, chemical warfare in the food and water and air program, and it's just going to intensify from here on out as their central anti-terror reservations of corporate government power, kind of like green zones in Iraq, run the dehumanization and slaughter operations outside, as they stage the terror, as they use weather weapons on us on record, as they spray things on us, as they and they send out paramilitary forces. What about the revolution towards robots? They're obsessed with getting rid of humans who can refuse orders and going towards robots. Daniel Estulin.
Well, very interesting, Alex. The future is going to be defined by who controls technology. There's absolutely no doubt about that whatsoever. And the scope of the technology today is mind-boggling, and it's a lot more advanced than anything that the government would want you, to believe that they have. For example, Obama has just green-lighted a 10-year Manhattan project to map the human brain, and they call it the Brain Activity Map Project. And the fact that DARPA is one of the agencies involved tells you a great deal. This is technocrats' wet dream. We can now power up an artificial brain of such power and intelligence.
Oh, yeah, MIT's in the news. Absolutely. I mean, just to back you up, they're in the news today. I have a clip I want to play in the next hour where they say we're looking at turning off your free will.
Well, that's obvious. I mean, you're talking about the development of sophisticated neural weapons, which create a perpetual state of tensions in promise and peril in the development of neural warfare and its effects. And the fact that you have 350 leading American universities and colleges working hand in glove and being subsidized and underwritten by the American defense spending tells a great deal. Caltech, MIT, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Cornell, University of Wisconsin. This is what it's all about. How far into space is all of this? Just, let's go back to Minority Report and, Tom Cruise's character, John Anderson. When he had that radical surgery to replace his eyes so that he can get past security systems, as he was lying in the tub recovering from his procedure, he had these tiny robots sneak into the room and scan his eyes, trying to track down, the fugitive future crime officer. Now, the ability to scan retinas and identify people is straight out of science fiction film, but outside of the use of spider-like drone bots, this is very much, present and near future. You're talking engineers at Southern Methodist universities are working closely with DARPA to develop new type of eye scanners, called Panoptis, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, no. They now have eye scanners that can scan you at 100, 200 yards away.
Exactly. These technologies, they're not being developed to stop the terrorists. Please understand, people. technologies were not written on a whim. They were specifically designed to give the government carte blanche authority over the people during the chaos.
Yeah, I want to explain to people something here. There are hundreds of books and publications that we cite in whatistheendgame.com, the online bibliography of the film. When you hear Daniel desperately going, this is on record, listen to me, it's because they are openly saying they're going to dam off our technological development, only let themselves advance it towards controlling all of human development, and we aren't in the future. We're already being soft-killed. The cancer rates are exploding. We're being murdered. Daniel, is there any way to reverse this? Because people are waking up, but that's a minority. I go out and look at the yuppies. They are just in ignorance of bliss. What do we do?
Alex, look at the new system they're developing right now. You know, it's called active denial system, ADS. It's a byproduct of larger ongoing research looking for technology that could delete and replace a person's memories via the use of electromagnetic radiation. Again, if you're thinking of Men in Black Hollywood science fiction, you're absolutely right, except that the technology called amnesia beam is here, ready to be used at the moment's notice. And what's more, a team of neuroscientists has actually developed a brain scan based on finding hints about what a subject is intending to do. This is a nightmare version of Minority Report made reality, and this is the future. People still talking about microchip in your hand. They don't need to do that anymore.
Look, I talked to...
Anybody with a smartphone, you're tracked 24/7, 365 a year by all these people.
And Daniel, remember, when you and I were saying this 15 years ago, we were kooks, and now it's just all mainstream. Yeah, we're listening to you without warrants. Yeah, everything you've ever done's been recorded. Yeah, we're putting cancer viruses in your vaccines. Yeah, we're going to kill you. And the public is so mesmerized. I mean, I talked to one of the high-level people. He's since gone on to MIT, and they actually let me into some of the areas. I'm going to leave it at that. Into the psychology department. This is the above-ground stuff I was able to see. All of it was DARPA. All of it was Defense Department. And most of it was just flicker rates and subtle rates over mainstream television to put monkeys into a dream state, and then after they'd kill the monkeys, they bring in humans and hook them up as graduate students, and they would have a whole wing just on how to make women sexually excited with a certain flicker, you know, for a year test, and it would say DARPA on the wall, and then they would have a whole nother room on how to make men upset. And that's why people that watch TV, they're already gone.
Hello, this is Hank Hill, and I'm telling you what, you need to listen to Alex Jones.
Yeah. Infowars.com.
My judge, what is the secret of the universe?
Infowars.com.
Yeah, they talk about MIT research, which you can pull up online, on how to turn off your morals, how to have wavelengths they broadcast that make you, kill your wife. And the stuff I saw at UT was how to make you hungry, how to make you sexually aroused. Where they hook electrodes up to these people, brain scans. And I was able to see the declassified, unclassified stuff that was still restricted. Accidentally, I was shown video feeds of the monkey farms out in Bastrop, 30 miles away from the University of Texas. And it just goes on year after year, testing wavelengths, flickers, sounds, programming the brain. I mean, you're under total assault, folks. And they're undoubtedly on YouTube sending carrier waves over that. Some scientists have picked those up. You can read DARPA articles in the major news over the years going, yeah, we're looking at mind controlling you. Yeah, we got microwave guns for the protesters now. Oh, that'll never happen. Daniel Estulin, we're going to break here in a moment. You'll be with us 15 minutes into the next hour. But briefly, tell people about the Octopus Project, the book available at InfoWarsStore.com, the Octopus Deception, because, you wrote a novel. Why a novel?
Well, because, Alex, you and I have been friends for years, and you know that I'm not afraid of anything or anyone. But there are things that I talk about in Octopus Deception, which is a novel with 90% information in based on investigative journalism, but there's things that I talk about. And people who read that book will know exactly what I mean, which even I was afraid to actually write it as a nonfiction book because I certainly don't want to get killed. And I've been getting very, very close. And I talked to my sources before deciding to actually write a novel. And they said, if you can, if you want to get killed, you have a death wish. Write this as a nonfiction. And I thought Daniel Casoloro was killed, writing it, working on a nonfiction book based on his investigation into the octopus. I thought, let's just keep it as a novel with 90% of the information in that book being very, very real. It exists in this parallel universe of smoke and mirrors, this world.
Sure, that's famous. I mean, there's so many books, like books Graham Greene's written, that are written as fiction because you couldn't publish it because the publishers won't put it out. So really, this is 90% non-fiction.
90%. Promises in there, it's real. Prosecutors Management Information System, Golden Lily, the World War II gold, that's real. CTP, Collateral Trading Program, that's real. Pledge Protection Team is real. 90% of the information in that book is absolutely real. It was just a question. I didn't want to die before it was just, it wasn't my time.
Absolutely. Jim's gone, and, he died. When we come back, I really just briefly want to find out from you, joining us from Rome, what else you think from your sources or know is on their agenda this year? What is some of the info on their agenda, Daniel?
I think, again, the preoccupation, population, and natural resources are two of the key areas which they're going to be talking about. Technology, control the technology, and actually get the upper hand in all of that areas, as we talked about before. The destruction of the world's economy, that's obviously always on the agenda.
Yeah, that's what I want to ask you. You're in Europe. We're going to play this UKIP clip coming up, I promise, folks. You're in Europe. I mean, what are the Bilderbergs doing there?
While we fight to retain our liberty, while we fight to expose globalism, we have to realize we're talking about a very powerful combination of power.
Renowned author and expert Joel Skousen breaks down the globalist plan to shut down America and stage a new world war.
In one day, America will go from day to night. And if you haven't prepared in advance, there's not enough time to prepare in 24 hours, even if you saw it that early.
Coming to the InfoWar in November is our new documentary film presentation.
Strategic relocation is a systematic way to think strategically in the future about how do I safeguard.
Joel Skousen, Strategic Relocation.
The freeways are going to be crowded, they're going to run out of gasoline, they're going to run out of food, and then they're going to start to go north and south of those freeways.
Joel Skousen is renowned as one of the world's foremost experts in strategic relocation and the securing of your home.
We talk about natural disasters, the health environment, we talk about pollution, the water quality. My personal experience about being in every one of these states.
Government is digging in for the organized, incremental collapse of society and world war.
The U.S. isn't building huge underground bases and bunkers because of some terrorist threat. They know that a massive nuclear attack is coming. They want that attack to come. Most people won't even be ready and won't be able to get out of town when any of these nuclear weapons fall, because there'll be absolute panic.
There is no preparedness without strategy.
What I tell people is that you do have time. Prepare wisely in advance.
This Christmas, give the gift of preparedness. Strategic Relocation, the film, with Joel Skousen and Alex Jones. Okay, Daniel Estuline's here with us for this segment, part of the next, and I'm going to go to your phone calls at 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. We're going to go to your phone calls if you were part of the tornado or there in Oklahoma and had any family that survived through it. John and Caroline, you're up next after Daniel leaves us. And we have the article up on Infowars.com. NBC, Obama scandals take a pause because of tornado. And I called Watson this morning and I said, they're clearly hijacking this for global warming taxes and to get us off Benghazi and all that. And NBC even admits that. Puts things into perspective. Yeah, let's get rid of the Bill of Rights and Constitution and let the government be evil because they're saving us from the tornado. Daniel Estulin, I want to talk just about you in general. As a journalist or researcher, do you have hope for humanity? I mean, in a football game here, I mean, Brzezinski says the New World Order's in trouble. Is that just talk? Hillary says they're losing the info war. Do we have a shot, in your view, of turning this around? And what can people do to do that?
Well, first of all, they have to understand that this is real. And second of all, just look, again, the broader picture. We've gone from meaningless generalizations, banality, simplistic extrapolations of early science fiction novels of deep sea monsters, electric submarines, space cannon, moon landings, to nanotechnology, robotics, cybernetics, artificial intelligence, life extensions. It won't be long before we can compete, as these people say, with God, on equal terms for immortality. At least that's their point of view. And, we don't know what the future will look like because it hasn't happened yet. What is beyond any doubt is that if we are to extrapolate what we know about the world, about the technology, about technological progress, we can make a fairly accurate prediction of what we're to expect of the world around us. And I'm convinced that we, the people, shall remain history's main protagonists, because, they've been going at it for hundreds of years, trying to destroy us one way or another. And, God bless our souls, we're still there. The pesky humans are always getting in the way. And I'm convinced that that's going to be the way of the future. I'm convinced that, the technology is going to be the way that the war is going to be played out in the future. But I'm also convinced that with the new generation of people, the youngsters who are coming up and who are actually technologically savvy, we're going to have more and more people on our side because the elite will always be 1% and we will be the rest. And we can win this war. It's just a question of realizing that we're fighting for the future of humanity, not just our lives, but the future of every human being on the planet from here on until the Earth disappears, and blows up or simply evaporates or whatever happens to it, be billions of years from now.
And by the way, that's not rhetoric. I mean, the globalists say they're taking control of human development. They're taking control of our evolution. They're taking control. They're going to decide what we do. They're going to decide who lives. I mean, this is a high-tech authoritarianism. That's what it is, high-tech tyranny. And people better get that. This is a war. And one thing about the technocracy is it counts on you being a jellyfish. I haven't talked about this yet on air. We're going to come back with Daniel and get into Europe. He's in the middle of it. And then go to your phone calls. Here's the headline up on Infowars.com. UK Independence Party draws attention to Bilderberg 2013. UKIP is getting people elected in droves to the EU Parliament, also to the British Parliament. It's the fastest growing party and really scaring them. And it's an anti-New World Order patriot party. It's like Ron Paul, Alex Jones-esque. And again, that's a sign of liberty worldwide. Well, you've heard them on the show. Nigel Farage and others. Members of European Parliament, Gerard Batten, has raised the alarm on Bilderberg. We're going to play a clip of this and then get Daniel Estulin's take as a European. Someone, lives in Spain. He's in Rome right now reporting what this means for them, that I've been told by that members of the Parliament and members of the EU Parliament are going to be going to Watford. And now because of the locals say they don't want to pay for security for this global crime syndicate, Bilderberg's in the Watford paper saying they'll pick up part of the cost. How about all of it? How about we're not treated like criminals as journalists? I mean, I'm going to laugh at the police if they let me into England when they come over and act like I'm a criminal when they know full well who I am and have been trying to contact me. By the way, I've just got to get around to it, calling them back. I'll talk to them. What am I planning? You know what I'm planning. Planning to go cover it. I'm media. Quit acting like it's evil to be media. Anyways, I mean, I go to these events. They have cops sit down next to me at the restaurant and go, "You want to blow something up, Alex?" And I'm like, "What are you, a 50-year-old Marine Corps officer With the State Department? Yeah, how do you know that? Well, I saw the Marines earlier getting out of their uniforms in the parking lot. Leave me alone. You're the ones that'll stage something. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. So let's go ahead and go to this clip and get Daniel Estuline's take on that. This is the EU Parliament with Bilderberg being brought up. Here it is.
Thank you. The next meeting of the Bilderberg Group is to be held in England. The location is thought to be the Grove Hotel, Watford, from the 6th to the 9th of June. These annual meetings are summits of the most wealthy, powerful and influential people in the worlds of politics, finance and business. The biggest mystery surrounding them is why the mainstream newspapers and broadcasters have chosen not to report on them since 1954. However, in the internet age, their existence can no longer be kept secret. I've written to all the mainstream press and TV in the UK, asking them if they intend to report on this meeting, and if not, why not. I have also submitted a Freedom of Information request to the Hertfordshire Police Commissioner, asking on what basis the policing is being provided and who is paying the bill. I am very much looking forward to the responses.
All right, you'll hear that man on this show, and I'll probably get to meet him if they let me into England. Daniel Estulin, I've got to give credit where credit's due. We don't do it to give the credit, but to show the power of the patriot being a scarce man at first, but then becoming very popular after your cause succeeds, to paraphrase Mark Twain, who I do often quote here. You were the first, what was it, like 4 years ago, to address the EU Parliament, the actual sitting Parliament, on the Bilderberg Group. And since then, we've seen members of Parliament from Italy, Germany, you name it, go and confront Bilderberg. The Swiss government went from being mean to our reporters to bringing them right up front and basically telling Bilderberg they weren't going to provide security for them when members of their federal government and state government showed up. Again, the worm is turning. This is a mafia. They've been indicted before. They've been caught in Lockheed scams. This is a crime syndicate meeting with our leaders, buying them off. And the fact that we've gone from them saying it didn't exist, of course, they still say that in our media, pretty shameful for America, to all over the world, it's now household names. How is this affecting them? And then let's get into what you're seeing happen in Europe, in Spain, Greece, the looting of the bank accounts, something you predicted now happening.
Well, it's obviously this is exactly what's happening. You have, today Spain is a very good example. Spain is no longer an independent nation. It's a protectorate. It's controlled by the European Troika, by the European Central Bank, and the people related to the top echelons of power of the European Parliament, who actually today are in Spain as we speak, controlling and making sure that Spain, which supposedly is an independent country, whose president was elected by the people, actually has to give account of what is going on financially, not to the people of Spain, but to these unelected bankers who came, from the European community. The same thing is happening in Portugal, in Ireland, in Greece, all over Europe, and obviously one of the reasons that UKIP is actually leading the campaign to get out of Europe is because, as they say, Europe has done no good to England, they have done no good to Spain, and they've done no good to anyone. But again, it's logical because the idea is, and again we've talked about this, Alex, is the destruction of nation-state republics and replacing nation-states, independent countries, with what you have, this pan-world union, and that's what we have right now. 27 nations in a European corset. They don't belong together, and they have no reason being together other than to make sure that they're part of this destruction of the world's economy, because it's logical. Progress and development is directly proportional to population.
Absolutely, and that's gotta scare them, though, that via Ron Paul, via what you're doing, what I'm doing, because I talk to these members of Parliament, they're our listeners. A lot of them woke up because of the anti-globalist movement here. The globalists always wanted to deny their existence, but now they're hiding in plain view, and just saying they don't exist anymore doesn't work. The man behind the curtain is being exposed. I think this is a real victory against these people. By the way, the Octopus Deception, your new book, available at InfoWarsStore.com, is finally in English. I'm going from memory, but I read about it in the British and Spanish press because I scanned foreign press. Wasn't it #1 for 20-something weeks in Spain?
Yeah, exactly. It was #1. It was the second highest title in the history of my publisher, which is the second largest publisher in Spain. It was the book of the year in Spain 2 years ago. #1 for 24 straight weeks in Spain on every major list. Obviously, you're going to make the globalists very happy because, again, the things we talk about are real. And the book begins with Daniel Casoloro being killed, and Daniel Casoloro, of course, a real-life character, was killed investigating Octopus. And I pick up the baton from him, and we take this light of truth.
And what you're saying here is, because I've heard that term from former or retired top CIA and others, and I've talked to top generals and people who were over special forces, you name it, off record, they've told me that it was called the Octopus. And so are you saying that's what they call their organization is Octopus?
Well, this is exactly, I mean, the world of my novel it's a novel, but the world itself, it exists. It's the place where governments, intelligence agencies, and secret societies battle for control of the world. And this is exactly how we have, against the backdrop of the economic meltdown, which we're seeing right now, you know, the government, the president, you know, three heroes of the novel, and Octopus are all trying to find these lost trillions of dollars, which were stolen by another organization more powerful than the Octopus itself. And that's one of the reasons I couldn't write it as a nonfiction novel, because if I had written it as a nonfiction novel, I wouldn't be talking to you today.
Yeah, if you wrote this about the Rothschilds, they definitely come after you. They sued major British papers saying, we're not an octopus, we're not puppet masters, and the judge said, this trial proved you are.
No, absolutely.
Did I just go too far there, Daniel?
No, you didn't. But you know, it just shocked me just how much you know. I don't know if you've read the whole book or parts of it, or you saw something in there which you shouldn't have seen, but you definitely are on the right track.
No,
this is real.
No, I know it is. No. I mean, when I said I've read the book, when it first came out in Spanish, obviously I can read a little bit of Spanish, but not much of it. I think you guys put like 6 chapters out last year.
That's right, we did. We put 6 chapters.
Yeah. So I read those at home one night. So I'm going to sit down this weekend coming up and read The Octopus Deception, available at InfoWarsStore.com, and also Trine Day, who put it out. DanielEstuline.com. Daniel, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Alex, God bless you. Thank you so much for having me on your show, and my best wishes to all your listeners. Thank
you. There goes Daniel. And folks, talk to Daniel. I want to get him on the nightly news if he can get to Skype when he gets back to Spain, as soon as he can do that. Thank you. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.